Annyeong! Welcome to Delightful! This year, I feel like I'm in need of a little more self-care, so to start, I thought I'd make something I really enjoy. You guessed it, time for another super cute, poofy, dress-wearing Lolita fashion doll! As for which doll to start with, I rummaged around in my stock box and found this. A Claudine from Monster High. I think this must be the dawn of the dance Claudine. Gosh, that was such a good lineup. Laguna from that line is one of my favorites. Anyhow, it's off to the workshop for her. With the hair removed and face paint wiped down, the doll has been reset to its bare minimum. While removing the hair though, a giant rip tore down the center part. Yikes! This is somewhat of a common problem for doll customizers. A lot of people turn to glue to reseal a ripped vinyl head, but that never holds. Instead, go in with a needle and thread and stitch the gap closed. A curved needle would be ideal, but you can brute force it with a straight needle if you have to. Time for new hair! I've been eager to use this yarn I found at a thrift store for ages now. Isn't it so pretty? I gauge how long I want each tress to be, double it, and cut. Using this to measure, I prepare a whole lot more in advance. Now, even though this yarn is thicker than typical doll hair, I'm still going to attempt a reroute. To accommodate the larger fiber, I'll be using size 0 needles from the Doll Planet. Pretty big, as you can see. Even though we reconnected her head with stitches, the big old tear is still a weak zone, so I'm going to give her a new part. Okay, here goes nothing. I had to widen each hole first by sticking in a large needle, like the one I'm rerouting with, waiting a couple seconds, then removing it and quick, punch in the yarn hair. I work my way up the new part first. I draw on where I want her human ears to end up and continue plugging around the hairline. You don't need to fill in every hole for a yarn reroute. The fiber is so much bigger and poofier than nylon doll hair that it covers the head in no time. And there we go! As you can see, I didn't even need to fill in the space between the hairline and the part. I was a little worried the giant needle would tear the vinyl at some point, but nope, made it through the reroute. Going down the center, I sort the hair left and right to find the center part. We'll finish styling the hair after her face up, so for now I bundle it up and mask it off beneath a scrap piece of fabric. Insert pins around the hairline to get a nice clean mask around the face. Roll the rest of the hair up like a burrito. Wipe the face down with warm soapy water to remove any last grease or grime, and we're ready to start. First, an acrylic base for the whites of her eyes. I lay down 2 to 3 layers. Then comes the blush, for which I'm using Mungyo hand-rolled soft pastels. I dust it onto her cheeks, nose, and forehead. If the color looks too strong, lightly remove it with a cotton cloth, or completely remove it with a kneaded eraser and try again. Now I seal her for the first time using Mr. Super Clear, a sealant specifically made for models and toys. Wear a filtration filter mask to stay safe, and spray in a ventilated area. The sealant should give the vinyl head enough tooth to draw on with watercolor pencils. So I sketch out the first pass with a pencil similar in color to the skin tone. That way, if I make any mistakes, it won't be that noticeable. Once I'm happy with the first pass, I come back with darker and darker pencils to define the creases and add shading. There's a touch of purple in her hair color that I want to pick up on, so let's make her lips a nice magenta color, and work pinks and purples into her eyebrows and iris color. Don't be too heavy-handed on top of the eye whites. You can see I tore a small hole through the paint in her left eye, but hopefully we can just work around that. Using white, I bring highlights into the corners and around her eyelids for sharper contrast with the shadows. After sharpening the black pencil to a fine point, I hash in the eyebrow hairs. Darker on the lateral side and lighter on the medial side tends to look great for eyebrows. Feeling a boost of confidence from the eyebrows, I hashed in her eyelashes too. Didn't do half bad this time. Let's get fancy with some shiny Pearl X powders, shall we? I dampen a brush ever so slightly, pick up a tiny cluster of sparkles, and spread them over her lips. I also add pink and magenta powders to the eyes in lieu of paint. I continue to build up the highlights and deepen the shadows until I'm satisfied, spraying the doll again with sealant whenever necessary. For the last highlights, I mix the powder with white acrylic and lightly stroke in several lines in the iris. And she's done! Not sure why I went with white pupils. It kinda looks like cosplay contacts. I think it makes her eyes really pop. After the final application of MSC, I use a gloss varnish to add shine to the eyes and lips for a more lifelike appearance. At last, we can unmask the hair. This part's always fun. You get a first look at how well the face and hair match each other. I already love her so much! I mean, I'm partial to pink, so what do you expect? Remember how I left room for the ears? Well, I saved her original Claudine wolf ears, but I want this character to be a human this time. So I simply chop off and whittle down the wolf ears until they're a cute round shape. Not bad. I accidentally cut a hole into this one, but you'll never see that, right? I go ahead and puncture some cute earrings into the ears first before gluing them on. Let's tackle the clothes next. 3.5 years after receiving this beautiful doll from Moonlight Jewel, I finally had the courage to undress her and take a closer look at the clothing. Eliza is one of the most talented seamstresses I've ever seen, and I'm hoping to become a better seamstress myself. The best way to improve is by learning from others, so I zoomed in and really studied the way she put these garments together. I'm hoping to apply the same level of meticulous detail and craftsmanship to my own work. This doll inspired my macaron doll and Yulia's dress, and I plan to make a very similar outfit for our current project. So I've gotten a lot of inspirational mileage out of Charlotte here. Thanks, Elisa! Check out these adorable miniature cotton fabrics. I hit the doll-sized fabric jackpot when I found these on doongshop.com, so I grabbed up a whole bunch. Yeah, it's pronounced doong, but they decided to write it like this in English. Good choice, guys! There are so many choices, it's hard to decide, but I think we'll go with this one. The deep purple, mint, and pinks in the fabric are all colors reflected in the doll's hair, so let's hope it matches. Using my own patterns, I make tweaks here and there to roughly match the shape of Charlotte's garments and cut out the pieces. Starting off with the skirt, I cut one large rectangle and immediately begin layering on the lace, trims, and ribbons. What combination looks the best? For high quality, I fold the hem over not once, but twice to hem the edges, which hides the raw edge of the fabric completely from view. I gather a long rectangle of fabric to form a ruffle, pin it to the skirt, and sew. I even went back and unpicked the gathering stitch for a cleaner finish. I should say here that I won't be going into this level of detail for her whole outfit. After all, it's heavily influenced by Charlotte's outfit, and Moonlight Jewel's got a video for that doll. I thought there was too much of that dark purple, so I whacked it in half and added a pink contrast instead. Then we continue with the lace, sewing down each side separately. I turned down the top half of the rectangle to form a casing, then cut a piece of elastic to the size of my doll's hips. Heat seal the tip so it doesn't unravel. Fold the skirt in half and sew up the back seam. Then, using safety pins as anchors, thread the elastic all the way through the casing. Sew the elastic together at the tips, and the waistband is made. The blouse has a lining, and linings are scary, but I'm going to try. So I cut and assemble 2 shirts at the shoulder seams. I then pin on and sew down the cap sleeves. Then the lining goes on top, right sides together, and you turn it right side out. Am I doing this right? Cover up the rough edges with a collar. There we go, this looks intentional, right? I zip up the side seams and add fancy ruffles down the front. Here's something I've never done before but noticed on Moonlight Jewel's clothes. She irons on a strip of interfacing over bulky seams or seams with raw edges showing. This keeps things from unraveling and looks clean, so I thought I'd try it. It's a great trick! From here on out, I top-stitched, I double-hemmed, I meticulously made tiny little bow accents, I really took my time and eventually had this. A full Lolita fashion outfit ready to go! Well, almost. She still needs accessories. I found these candidates amongst my supplies. They'll provide a good base for what I have in mind. Firstly, I trim down the molded-on details of the bag, then drill new holes through the plastic where I want the backpack straps to go. To flatten out the remaining 3D texture, I glue on several layers of fabric, one on top of the other, until I leveled the surface. I glue a hemmed strip of pink fabric around the exterior, trim it, and glue the flaps down. I cover up the hinge with a mock strap of fabric, then finally glue a pretty pink circle on top which conceals everything underneath. I add a pocket to make it look more like a backpack, then cover up all the remaining raw edges with a decorative embroidery thread. When in doubt, add more bows, and at last I thread ribbons through the holes we drilled earlier to make backpack straps. Paint on details like pins and buttons using acrylics. I'm going to try and make this my Anyang pin from the store by painting it with a needle tip. Ah, it's so small! Can you read it? Along with pins and buttons, every kawaii fashionista needs a cute animal keychain. This little kitty cat is the right size, but why is he crying? Don't be sad, little guy. I repainted him with acrylics to be a happy, highly saturated kitty complete with little pink toe beans. A couple more finishing touches, and the super cute backpack is done! The shoes were a simple repaint. I just repainted them, added a string of white beads and a bow on each toe. And with that, the doll is finished! Let's assemble all the pieces. I'm very happy with her, I must say. To honor the doll that inspired her, I think it's only fitting we give her the nickname Charley. There's one big accessory I didn't show you in this video, her wheelchair, of course. That's because it needs its own separate tutorial video. I'll give you a step-by-step guide on how to make a doll-sized wheelchair, complete with a free PDF pattern you can download and use. You won't want to miss it, so stay tuned. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you had fun watching this doll come together. Subscribe so that you never miss a new video and to make sure you get notified when I upload the wheelchair tutorial. I'll catch you next time. Stay artsy! 안녕!